And she walked out all smiles, holding her title out so people can touch it. Leave their little germs and boogers all over the belt. We'll call it the booger belt. AEW was in Montreal, Quebec, Canada tonight for the very first episode of Dynamite to emanate from Montreal. Technically, last night was their debut. They had a Collision taping last night, so the episode of Collision that's going to be airing this Saturday is already in the can. That episode has already been taped. But they were in Canada tonight, and in Canada, we had a match between two Canadian legends. We had Adam Copeland one-on-one with Christian Cage, their first singles match in 13 years. The last time we saw these two men in the ring together was on an episode of Monday Night Raw, and it wasn't even the main event. It was just in the middle of the show. Copeland and Christian for the TNT Championship. What did I tell you? I told you, keep an eye on Nick Wayne's mom. Keep an eye on Shayna Wayne, because you know that she's going to be moseying on down to the ring after what Copeland did to her son, bashed this kid's brains in a few weeks ago, right in front of her, killed her son right in front of her. And how are they going to get out of this without putting the title on Edge? Well, as you saw tonight, you saw Nick Wayne's mom make her way down to the ring, and what did she do? She took the TNT title, and she hit Adam Copeland in the head with it, and the crowd goes mild. You could practically hear everybody in the building groan in unison. The thing is, story-wise, it does make sense. For all the reasons that I told you in the first place that this was probably going to happen, because the last time we saw Nick Wayne on TV, Copeland gave him a concerto right in front of his mother. And then Copeland went and he took out the dinosaur. He made him extinct. Christian had no backup. He had nobody. And so you think coming into this, well, if it's a fair fight, one-on-one, Copeland's going to win the title. But oh no, right? There's always an ace up the sleeve. And that was Nick Wayne's mom. Now, was Nick Wayne's mom actually with Christian? Are they aligned? You know, they didn't look aligned at the end of the show tonight. We didn't get Christian making out with Nick Wayne's mom like he did Trish Stratus at WrestleMania when she turned on Chris Jericho. Almost 20 years ago. We didn't get that at the end of the show. Although there are a lot of people who are fans of Nick Wayne's mom. I will not pass judgment on those people. Nick Wayne's mom, she's a fine lady. But we didn't get that. That doesn't necessarily mean what she did tonight, that she's with Christian. We'll have to wait and see if she's going to be aligned with him or not. There is a way to make sense of that. You know, in a way you think, well, what sense would that make? Why would she be with this man who has corrupted her son and said all of these awful things about her dead husband? There is one way to rationalize it, which is that in order for her to get her son back, the only way may be for her to join with them. She's already lost the husband. She doesn't want to lose her son. She's willing to do whatever it takes to gain her son's trust back so he can welcome her back into his life, right? I mean, there's always a way to explain. But I will not lie when I tell you that when the show was over, I was rolling my eyes almost into the back of my head. I looked like the Undertaker. Just because it made sense doesn't necessarily mean that it was a good way to end the show. It's very lame, the idea that the first Edge and Christian match that we get in 13 years ends with interference from a wrestler's mom. Imagine, if you would, Judy Bagwell getting involved in this match. Imagine Shelton Benjamin's mama getting involved in this match. Imagine the shit that Vince McMahon would get. Imagine the shit that WCW would get for something so ridiculous. So just because story-wise it might make sense, doesn't make it good. But that's what we got at the end of the show. The one good thing that it does do is it prolongs the eventual rematch. Because what they did at the end of this match, they even did a little thing right before the 3 count, where Christian put his foot on Copeland's neck and said, I'm going to break his neck. And he stomped on his neck. And then he pinned him. And so that tells me that, yeah, everybody assuming that we're going to get the rematch at World's End, I wouldn't be so sure about that. Maybe we will. Maybe at the end of the month we'll get the rematch. That almost felt to me like they're going to send Copeland off television for a while because they want to prolong the rematch even more. Maybe we don't get Copeland and Christian at World's End. Maybe we get Copeland and Christian at Revolution. Revolution is shaping up to be a very big show. We have Sting's retirement match on that show. We don't know who against. Maybe they want to push the eventual rematch with Copeland and Christian off for a few more months. That's kind of what I read into the whole, stomp on the neck thing there at the end. Because otherwise, what's the point of him doing that? Instead of, having Shayna hit him with the belt and then give him the kill switch and then pin the guy. Now he stomps on his neck. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see if they keep Copeland off television for a while. But that was our main event at the end of the show. Christian Cage still your TNT champion, to the surprise of no one. We had 3 more matches in the Continental Classic as well. Gold League, because the Gold League matches happen on Wednesdays. The Blue League happens on Collision on Saturdays. And again, if you are a fan of this tournament, when this thing kicked off, if you're a fan of the G1, if you're a fan of round-robin tournaments in wrestling, you know that you are going to get very good pro wrestling matches every week on TV. And if that's what you're looking forward to, then this was another great week of pro wrestling inside the ropes, because we had Jay White and Jay Lethal, the battle of the double J's. We had Jon Moxley and Roosh. We had Swerve Strickland as well on this show against Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe, frankly, has been the MVP, I think, at least on the gold side. Every match that he has been in, I would argue, is the best match so far in the tournament, at least in the Gold League. And yet Mark Briscoe has 0 points. Mark Briscoe has been mathematically eliminated from winning the Continental Classic. However, he and Jay Lethal now have something in common. Now they can play the role of spoiler, because they're not going to be winning shit in this tournament. Jon Moxley, Swerve Strickland, they are now at the top of the rankings on the Gold League side. They are going to be wrestling each other next week. And this is, the thing that I was looking forward to most about this, having their version of a G1, is exactly what we've been getting on these shows, because you can always count on these shows, and you get it with Brody King. Brody King has been sort of a breakout name on the Blue League side. Bryan Danielson, of course, is Bryan Danielson. He's always going to have at least a very good match when he's out there, if not a great match. But you knew what you were going to get when this thing started. And we have gotten so far some great pro wrestling. They are telling some stories in the tournament. We're seeing a story play out right now on Collision with Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston is going to be wrestling Claudio on television this week, and Eddie Kingston has yet to win a match. And so you look at him and you say, well, here's the guy who put both of his belts in the pot. To the winner go the spoils. They're doing this Triple Crown thing. If Eddie Kingston doesn't at least make it to the finals, he's no longer the Ring of Honor World Champion. He's no longer the New Japan Strong Openweight Champion. Surely he has to start winning matches at some point. That's the story they're telling with him. And I'm not even getting into any spoilers or anything for Collision. But I look at what they've done with Eddie Kingston so far, right? You know that at some point, he's going to have to go on a roll. And he's going to have to come from behind if he wants to make it to the finals of this tournament. So they are telling stories within the confines of the tournament. But great wrestling on the show tonight. And then we had MJF and the Devil stuff. Now, they promised us a tag team match this week with MJF and Samoa Joe taking on two hand-picked henchmen of the Devil. After the silly angle they did last week with the writing on the screen, will you be the hero? Will you be my hero? Fucking Bonnie Tyler over here, holding out for a hero. And we didn't know who the two men were going to be. The men in black were going to be against Joe and MJF. Well, as it turned out, it didn't matter because we didn't get a match. And I have an issue with that. And I'm not even surprised by what they did. But I have an issue with the way that they went about it. And I'll tell you why. But we have to first get into the beginning of things here. This is your AEW Dynamite review for Wednesday, December the 6th, 2023. I am the Solomonster. And I want to thank everybody for helping me get to 76,000 subscribers here on the channel. We did break 76,000 earlier today, so thank you for that. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well if we get at least 400. Oh, the Judgment Day. Fucking A. We didn't get that on Monday night. We got it here on Wednesday. The Judgment Day. Who was that? That was Bobbert Reviews. I'm looking at you, Bobbert. Thank you, brother. You can't get away from them. Doesn't matter if it's WWE or AEW. You got CM Punk banning people on the Raw stream from Collision, and you got the Judgment Day showing up here on Dynamite. You never know what you're going to get. But anyway, yes, thank you for the 76,000. Congrats, I appreciate that. 400 likes for Be the Booker. Super chats are open. Get those messages in. I will be reading them a little bit later on. And thank you for the gifted membership. Justin G just gifted a membership to Kareem. So thank you very much. We have 3 Gold League matches in the Continental Classic, and they opened with one of them. First time ever encounter between Jon Moxley, coming in with 6 points, and Roosh, coming in with 3. And Roosh had his left hamstring taped up. You remember in the match last week when I was talking about Roosh, it looked like he hurt his leg. And I wasn't sure if it was just part of the story of the match, if it was, if he was working an injury or what. It looked to me like he really did tweak his leg. Maybe he pulled a hamstring. I'm guessing he did pull something. Obviously nothing too serious. He was back in the ring this week. But he did have the left leg taped up. Both men wasted no time throwing chops. Moxley got dropped on his head. Actually, it looked more like he got dropped on his shoulder with an overhead belly-to-belly. So to the floor they went. Action spilled into the crowd, and the referee was being very lenient here. He did not want to see this match end in a countout. So he was very lenient as these men were brawling in the crowd. Roosh splashed a drink from a fan in Moxley's face before getting back in the ring. Roosh connected with the stalling boot, and then he struck his pose on the mat. Moxley did not like this, so he got up and he flipped him the double bird. Moxley got a near fall off of a superplex, and then he blocked an overhead belly-to-belly. ended up getting one on the floor anyway, right into the barricade. So that took us into the first break. After Roosh was controlling throughout the entire commercial break, Moxley answered with a DDT, take back control, but then he got stuck by a pile driver by Roosh for 2. Roosh returned the favor from earlier. He had a superplex of his own off the top. Moxley escaped the DDT, though, and he sent Roosh to the floor. He connected on a suicide dive. Both men barely beat the count back into the ring before 10. Roosh went for bull's horns, but as he was charging into the corner, Moxley pulled himself up and just took his head off with a lariat. And then he picked him up. He gave him Death Rider. Roosh kicked out. Moxley, though, immediately slaps on the rear naked choke. He locks it in. Roosh eventually passes out, or so we were told. I mean, he was still moving around and struggling. It's not like he went limp. But Paul Turner called for the bell anyway. Roosh got up. He was furious. He had no idea what happened. He didn't tap out. But he did lose the match. This was a hard-hitting affair here between these two, as most of Roosh's matches are. Let's be honest. If you watch a Roosh match, it almost doesn't even matter who it's against. It's probably going to be a hard-hitting affair. And this one was no different. This was Moxley's best match in the tournament so far. And I enjoyed the first match he had with Mark Briscoe. But this was even better. And now he sits atop the leaderboard on the gold side. He's got 9 points here in this tournament. And that means that for Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal, easy mistake to make, going into their matches later in the show, it was make or break, because they had to win or they would be mathematically eliminated. Now, it's a round robin, so it's not like they're out of the tournament completely. They will still be wrestling people every week, but they would then play the role of spoiler. They wouldn't be, and believe me, as a Mets fan, I know what it's like to see your team play the role of spoiler more often than not. And so that really kind of amped up the drama a little bit for the two of them heading into their matches later in the show. They had to put some points on the board or they were done. Now, Renee brought Roderick Strong and the Kingdom out on stage for an interview, and she said that Roddy had asked for the time to address the audience. And so what's going on? And Roddy said that it's obvious that MJF is going to put his dagger into the heart of his best friend by proxy, Samoa Joe. But Joe's a big boy, and if life has taught him anything, it's that actions have consequences. And tonight, Joe is going to put his hands on a hot stove, and it's going to burn. Renee asked him, yeah, but what if Max isn't the guy that you think he is? And he said, every decision has consequences. He goes, look at me. Look at me, he said. He said he's in this wheelchair because of decisions that he's made. This is his life every single day, sitting in this wheelchair until now. And then he rose to his feet, up out of the wheelchair, and then Matt Taven took the wheelchair and wheeled it right off stage. It's a miracle. Roddy can walk again, although he still has the neck brace on. That's going to be his D'Lo Brown chest protector. That's going to be his Ace Orton cast on his arm. He's going to be wearing that neck brace. The day he goes into the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame, he'll still be wearing that neck brace. So he rose up out of the chair and said that the wheelchair has held him down for far too long, but no longer. We got a video package for the upcoming Jay White and Jay Lethal match, which touched on their history together. There's some history there from their Ring of Honor days together. So I like how they tied that in here. So it's not it is a cold match, but it's not a totally cold match, and that there is some history between the two of them. Tonight, though, he said that he's getting the 3 points in the Gold League. Jay White said Lethal realizes his back is against the wall, and he said that it is a must-win for him. Now, back from the break, Renee was outside of MJF's locker room when Hangman Adam Page came walking by. First time we've seen him on TV since the loss in the Texas Death Match at Full Gear. And so she decided to talk to him instead. And he said that he had something to say to Swerve after Full Gear. Because, you broke into my home. You went into my son's room, but you beat me in a Texas Death Match at Full Gear on pay-per-view. And he said he can recognize that he got beat. He recognizes that he lost, but he said the two of them are bound by something bigger than the both of them. He said, this is not over. He said he knows what Swerve is after, and his mission now is to make sure that he never gets it. That is a surefire way to turn yourself heel. If your mission is to stop Swerve Strickland from the ultimate goal that he has, forget the Triple Crown. Triple Crown doesn't even exist. They're creating it out of thin air. Forget the Triple Crown. The ultimate goal for Swerve Strickland is and should be to become the AEW, the first African-American AEW World Heavyweight Champion, right? He's talked about this before in his promos. That is his goal. And I believe it will happen. In 2024, you're looking at your next AEW World, whether he is the next one or not. In 2024, you're looking at the next AEW World Champion. So if Hangman's mission is to stop him from doing that, with all the momentum and the fan enthusiasm, frankly, that Swerve has right now, even though he is still technically a heel, it's going to turn Hangman heel. Maybe that's by design, but I don't think that the fans are going to react very positively if he ends up costing him the chance to win that championship. So MJF emerged from his dressing room and he said hello to his old friend Seabiscuit. Talked about how compelling it was to watch Hangman and Swerve battle it out to see who could pick up the most STDs. Page says that he doesn't have 30 minutes to talk to him and he went to go walk away. So off he went, and MJF is still talking to Renee, and he tells Renee the reason he needs 30 minutes is to wake the crowd up from the boredom of Hangman's promo. And Hangman heard that. He didn't like that very much, so he came back into camera frame and they started arguing back and forth. MJF recalled beating Hangman, who he called a white trash hick. He recalled beating him to win his very first Dynamite Diamond ring back in 2019. And Hangman says, well, it made him so upset that he went out and won the World Championship. MJF called that cute and said, what did that last? What, 6 months? You were the world champion for 6 months, maybe? Hangman said that MJF will be 70 years old at home telling his ninth cat about his 1 year as the AEW World Champion. I know MJF has at least one cat named Piper. I don't know if he might have multiple cats, but he's got one cat named Piper. And I suppose, yes, if he's 70 years old, Piper will be long gone by then. So he may well be on his ninth cat by then. I don't know. I don't know how many cats he's had prior to Piper. I had 2. I can't go through that again. But MJF said that out of everybody in the locker room, you know what? He thinks that Hangman is the man in the devil mask. And Hangman said that MJF has been a manipulator as long as he's known him, and he assumed that MJF was actually the devil. So now Samoa Joe shows up. Things look like they were about to get physical between the two of them, and Samoa Joe intervened, and he told Hangman MJF is his responsibility now. Then he turned around. He was super pissed off. He turned around to MJF and said, what's wrong with you? Joe told MJF, we've got other business tonight that does not involve Hangman. And I was reminded, watching this promo, I hadn't really thought about it, but it's been a long time since we've seen any real interaction or a match between MJF and Hangman Page. You'd have to go all the way back to the very first full year of AEW. All the way back in 2019. In fact, I think on that first Double or Nothing show in Vegas, right, they had a battle royal, I think. Now, were they the final two? I don't remember now. But their history goes back to the very beginning of the company and to the Dynamite Diamond Ring match they had later in the year, which MJF won. So it's been long enough that if they wanted to do something with these two, even though it felt very random, it's almost like if they don't end up doing something in the next few months with them, then I don't know what the point of this was. Because again, we're in a position right now where MJF of all people is working so many different angles, right? The stuff with Adam Cole is on the back burner right now because of the injury. You got the devil stuff going on. He's wrestling Samoa Joe at the Nassau Coliseum. He's got, Wardlow breathing down his neck. Now he's got this backstage run-in here with Hangman Page. So he's got a lot of things going on as it is. But if they are teasing something with them next year, Hangman would likely be the heel in that feud. And so it makes me wonder if Tony Khan sees that the fans maybe are getting more and more behind Swerve Strickland. Wouldn't at all surprise me if by the beginning of 2024, we're in a position where Swerve Strickland is turned babyface by the audience just because they like him so much, and he goes babyface and maybe Hangman goes heel, right? And I'm not sure that he couldn't use a heel turn, quite frankly. That could be just what he needs. So maybe Swerve goes babyface, Hangman goes heel. We see Hangman working with MJF, or if I'm right, and if we get a Swerve Strickland AEW World Title run in 2024, we could come back around to Swerve and Hangman. Only this time the roles are reversed, and Hangman is the heel and Swerve is the babyface. So again, this felt randomly inserted, but I'm thinking that it wasn't as random as it came off, and it could be a harbinger of things to come, perhaps. So it's something to keep an eye on there. We had our second Gold League match of the night in the Continental Classic with Mark Briscoe, one-on-one against Swerve Strickland. Brian Cage and Prince Nana were out on stage with Swerve, although they were not allowed down to the ring with him because in the Continental Classic, no managers, nobody's allowed at ringside, no interference, none of that stuff. But Nana was on stage. He was doing the dance. He was doing the dance like he was showing me the dance here, as you could see from House of Glory last Friday. And I don't do it quite as well as he does, but there you go. A little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. I don't have the same rhythm that he does, but he was out there tonight doing the dance. It's always nice to see Prince Nana out there doing his thing. This was even better than the opener, and I enjoyed the opener too with Moxley and Roosh. This was even better. This right here was the best of the Gold League matches that we had on the show this week. We also got a WCW mention on commentary by Tony Schiavone, which was bound to happen. I'm surprised, frankly, it took this long for it to happen. 4 years in, not bad. Not bad. Jim Ross was only a few matches in. He was calling Kenny Omega the WWE champion. So it's all good. It's all good, Tony. What happened is he said there were guys in WCW that would love to play spoiler, and Taz corrected him and had a good laugh at his expense, as Excalibur did. So both men went to the apron. They traded strikes until Swerve sent Briscoe into the front row. And while standing on top of the barricade, Strickland hit a superplex to the floor, and that took us into the commercial break. And during the break, it was all Strickland. He had control all throughout the break. Briscoe, though, escaped an armbar with some redneck kung fu, and then he started to run wild with a charging boot in the corner, followed by a fisherman's buster for 2. Strickland fought back with a step-over gut-wrench German. Then he hit a rolling flatliner. Then he hit a buzzsaw kick. Got a close near fall out of that. That's right, yes, Mr. Dynamite. I forgot about that, yes. Jim Ross also called it WWE Dynamite one week. So, yeah, there were a few other instances of that, but look, Jim Ross is a legend, so we'll let it slide. Briscoe took control. Strickland rolled through a Jay Driller attempt into a house call. Briscoe, though, got the knees up on a 450 splash. Almost got a roll up for 2. Almost got him the 3 count. We got a rolling Death Valley driver from Mark Briscoe, who wanted a froggy bow. Oh, froggy hole. Justin G, thank you for the $15 super chat, Justin, and for the gifted memberships. I appreciate that very much. But yeah, he wanted a froggy bow. Strickland got the knees up on the way down. And we got the 5-minute time call from Justin Roberts. Both men went to the apron at that point, where Strickland fought off a Jay Driller into a DVD on the apron. And Strickland then connected with the Swerve Stomp back inside to finally pick up the win. An excellent match here between these two men. It sucks that Briscoe has gone winless so far in this tournament, especially, again, he's consistently had some of the best matches in the entire tournament, and he has absolutely nothing to show for it. He has no points. And he may well go the entire tournament without any points. But you know what? If he keeps cranking out matches like this, that's okay. But that was the right decision. I don't think anybody would argue that it was the right call having Swerve go over in this match. And Swerve's momentum just continues. And with that win now, he ties Jon Moxley at 9 points atop the rankings here in the Gold League. And right now, look, Swerve can do no wrong. When you're hot, you're hot. You know, the guy's on a roll right now. He may not win the entire thing, but I think it would be a sin and it would be the wrong decision for him not to at least go to the finals at World's End. You have to at least send him to the finals on the pay-per-view. I think it would be booking malpractice to do this any other way. Whether it's against Bryan Danielson or somebody else, I think Danielson Swerve is the likely final here, even if he doesn't win the entire thing. But he's got to go to. He's got to go to World's End. Otherwise, what's he doing? You're going to do Swerve Hangman 3 at Nassau? I'm sure we will get Swerve Hangman 3 at some point. But maybe it's in 2024 when the roles are reversed. It doesn't have to be at World's End. He beat him 2 straight. There's no reason to go right back to it. Renee was backstage with Mariah May and asked her what she talked about with Tony Khan last week. We saw RJ City last week, wishing her luck as Mariah May knocked on the door and walked into Tony Khan's office. And so she wanted to know what the nature of their conversation was. Nosy. She said that Tony mentioned what a big fan he was of Japanese wrestling, which, no shit. You just watch the product that he books. You could tell Tony Khan is a big fan of Japanese wrestling. 2 things that Tony Khan was a big fan of as he was growing up, as a young wrestling fan. One was ECW, and you could see that influence all over these shows every single week with all the blood and the tax and everything else. So ECW, and he's talked about being at the ECW arena with his dad, and the other one is Japanese wrestling. And so she mentioned that, he obviously was a big fan of her work. Renee asked, well, what about the plans you discussed for your debut match? What can you tell me about that? And Mariah told Renee that it was none of her business. But tonight, it's all about Toni Storm and her title match against Skye Blue, which came up a little bit later on. We had a tag team bout, or we were supposed to have a tag team bout here. Supposed to be the AEW World Champion, MJF, teaming up with his World's End opponent, Samoa Joe, to take on 2 of the Devil's henchmen. Now, Joe was out to the ring first. And he gets inside, and the lights in the arena begin to flicker. And then eventually the lights go out for a few seconds, and then they kind of come back on. It's almost like a spotlight in the ring on Joe. And all of a sudden, the Devil's men have the entire ring surrounded. Joe is all alone by himself in the ring, and there's a man on each side, outside. Lights go out again. When the lights come back on about 10 seconds later, Joe is in the ring, but the Devil's men are gone. More spooky magic. It really does feel like Retribution, doesn't it? I don't mean that in a good way either. Gives me bad flashbacks. Then the Devil appeared very briefly on the Tron in the Devil mask. Then he quickly disappeared, and they cut to a shot of the parking garage, and we see that the world champion, MJF, has been laid out. He is face down on the ground. The belt is on the ground next to him, and we see the remnants of a shattered beer bottle. Broken glass. Real glass. Broken glass all around, and MJF is down. Joe, of course, is alarmed by this because he sees his meal ticket there. He needs him to be healthy when he goes to World's End and beats him for the belt. So he immediately leaves the ring and makes a beeline to the back. You knew there had to be some sort of angle here when they announced this, because we know that MJF is hurt. Okay, if you take everything that he's tweeted and that they've said at face value, he's got very real injuries that he's dealing with right now. The main one being a labrum tear in his shoulder. Now, I think Meltzer was the one who said that the tear is worse than they originally feared. We don't know, because we haven't gotten any sort of medical update from MJF or from AEW on the nature or the extent of the injury. If it's a really bad, severe tear, that's not good. He may need surgery. He could be gone for a while. Other wrestlers, if the tear isn't so bad, they don't get surgery, and they just keep working, and they let it heal on its own. which is probably what he's hoping to do. But he's got a very serious injury. And he also probably has a hip, I'm sure, that's bothering him because he dislocated it doing that diving elbow at Full Gear. So he's all beat up right now. It's very stupid to put him in the ring at all between now and World's End. He should be rehabbing and recovering and cutting promos on television and not actually getting in the ring and wrestling. So I'm not faulting them for not wanting to put him in the ring. The issue I have with this is the fact that it bothers me when you have your world champion, and really anybody, but especially somebody in his position, that you're advertising for a match on this show. And you advertise it all week long when you never had the intent on having him wrestle in the first place. This match never even should have been announced. You know, if they wanted to do Samoa Joe stepping in and saying, look, I told you, I want you at 100% for World's End. You're my responsibility now. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. So no, you're not going to wrestle next week. I will wrestle one or both of the Devil's henchmen. You can be in my corner if you want. You could have done the exact same angle. Now, you're still not doing the match, so I guess it gets you back to the same place. But advertising a match a week in advance with MJF and then not delivering to me, I don't like that. I don't like that. But again, they had to find their way out of this because he shouldn't be working. You've got to protect him before your pay-per-view. It's insane to put him in the ring and have him working matches before December 30th. It doesn't make any sense. And so that's what they did. That was their way of getting out of it here. Now, the question is, as I was looking at MJF laying there on the ground, the thought occurred to me, because he wasn't my first choice, but it makes you think, okay, maybe they are going to go with MJF as the Devil. Maybe they're going to go with the most obvious choice, which would be a letdown, if at the end of all this, it's just like, oh, it was MJF all along, right? Because he's been telling us that he's a scumbag and he's the Devil. And at the beginning of all this, everybody thought it was him. But then as time has gone on, people, I think, have gotten further and further away from that. But I'm watching him laying there on the ground, a segment like this makes you think, well, how could it not be him, right? It's exactly the sort of thing that that somebody like him would do. It fits his MO to a T. But it would also put him back in the heel column, and I'm not sure they're really, especially before Adam Cole comes back, I'm not sure they want to do that because he's got a lot of opponents lined up. He's got a lot on his plate. He's still over as a babyface. He's the top babyface in the company right now. Some might say Swerve or Danielson. But do they really want to turn him back heel this quickly? I'm not sure that they do. The Broken Bottle was interesting because he had that segment earlier with Hangman. And so is that their way of, they're going to do an angle now where Hangman is being framed. They want you to think it's Hangman, or whoever did it wants MJF to believe that it was Hangman Page, when of course in reality it wasn't. So maybe that's why that was the purpose, I guess, of the beer bottle there, to try to frame Hangman. But still can't disqualify the possibility that it was MJF all along. And again, even though, again, it makes sense if you think about that character. What a letdown it would be to do this angle for 3-4 months, and then in the end, it was me all along. It's like Vince McMahon is the greater power. It was me all along, Austin. People still talk about that to this day. It was shit then, it's shit now. Just because people talk about it doesn't mean that it was a good angle. I remember being disappointed with that too when it happened. So I'm hoping that's not what they go with. Jon Moxley was in the back, and he delivered a promo, said that he is humbled before God and his mother. He said that he expected to be unbeaten and win the Continental Classic. Swerve and Prince Nana came walking in. Swerve pointed out that they had the same record, and now he would do whatever it takes to win when they meet next week in Texas. So we're not going to have to wait very long. We're getting the match next week. It's going to be Swerve one-on-one with Jon Moxley. Moxley said that he would do the same, and Swerve blew him a kiss before walking away. That's a must-see match next week. That's a must-see match next week between those two. I believe their first encounter. They cut to a segment with Ben Mankiewicz, who has been a host. Now, he's the kind of guy I have seen him before. If you put his picture in front of me, I would say, I know that guy from somewhere, but if my life depended on it, I couldn't tell you what his name is. It's like those character actors you see in movies. Like, I know that guy. Like, he's in everything, but I couldn't tell you his name. That's Ben Mankiewicz. He's a host on Turner Classic Movies, which shows a lot of old films, and I mean, hence the name, right? Classic movies. So they got him to do a segment here. Nifty little note, by the way. I heard about this earlier today. I was not aware of this, but Mr. Mankiewicz over here is the grand nephew of Joseph Mankiewicz. Joseph Mankiewicz is the one who wrote and directed the movie All About Eve, on which this whole Toni Storm Mariah May storyline is based off. So that's an interesting little side note. He recorded this from the TCM studio. He said that every generation, a performer comes along that redefines what it means to be human. To some, it could be Garbo, Brando, Groucho. But it could also be Toni Storm. Every slam or pile driver paints a picture, and he listed off the various silent films that Toni Storm has been starring in of late. And then he said, chin up, chest out, and watch for the shoe. They couldn't get Ben to say tits out. He refused to say tits out, or maybe they didn't ask him because they were afraid of what he would say. I'm going to guess that he said, I'm not going to do that. So he said chest out. Could not bring himself to say tits out here. So I'll say it for him. Tits out. Or what did I say that one time when I botched it? I said, watch for the tits. Watch for the tits. I do love how they have gone all in on this movie starlet stuff. The one thing you can't say, as far as Tony Khan's booking with Toni Storm, maybe he's taken a liking to her because of her name, because they share the same name, but they've gone all in on this character with the vignettes and the black and white and bringing this guy in. I'm still loving it. Now, Justin Roberts in the arena introduced her from Stage 7 at Warner Studios, and out comes Toni Storm with Luther and Mariah May for her title defense against Skye Blue. Storm decked Skye Blue with a forearm until Blue answered with a tilt-a-whirl head scissors, and Toni went outside to regroup. Got cut off with a dive. Luther, though, placed Toni on his shoulders. This was innovative little spot here. Luther's on the ground outside. Tony's on the apron. Toni now is on his shoulders. Skye Blue is on the apron. Toni grabs a hold of Skye Blue, and as Luther starts running, right, Toni, of course, has Skye Blue, and she ends up charging with her and throws her, and Skye Blue takes a bump off the apron to the floor. So now with Blue set up against the barricade, Toni connected with the Sweet Cheek music, and that took us into the commercial break. Storm avoided Skyfall a little while later, hit a release German that sent Skye Blue into the corner. Blue avoided a hip attack and hit a Sweet Cheek music of her own. I'm sure everybody in this chat, your heads must have exploded. Your head, your loins. I'm sure this was your favorite match on the entire show. You get a Sweet Cheek music from Toni Storm. You get a Sweet Cheek music from Skye Blue. You got Mariah May on the outside. I'm surprised you people haven't passed out from oxygen deprivation. So now she goes for the code blue, and it connects. She hits the code blue. It looks great. Got the closest near fall of the match. Storm then cut off Blue in the corner. Speaking of blue, that's an appropriate word. Judging from some of the comments I see every week. Skye Blue. Anyway, Storm cut off Blue in the corner, hit a superplex, and then she hit another Sweet Cheek music, but Skye Blue briefly got a roll-up, only for Toni to counter into one of her own, and she got the win. So this was one of Skye Blue's best matches today. I don't want to say her best match. I haven't seen all of her matches. She's wrestled a lot on Rampage, and I mean, come on now. I ain't got time for that. But I can't put this above the triple threat for the TBS title at Full Gear. But this was one of the better Skye Blue matches that I've ever seen. And that code blue that she hit. Chef's kiss. That looked great. You know, you really need the cooperation of your opponent. I've seen her a couple of times try that move, and if the other person isn't in the right position or doesn't kind of go over for it, you know, it could get botched very easily. It looks very awkward, but I thought that Code Blue looked great, even though she didn't win with it. And Toni Storm, I mean, look, Toni Storm knows her character just to a hilt, and everything, just the little things, the mannerisms and the things that she does during the matches themselves. And now she's got Luther in on the act and everything. I just think it's perfect. It just makes it so much fun to watch, just seeing how committed she is to the character. So she celebrated after the match until we had a big AEW return. This was a monumental return here on this show. You will not believe who we had back on the show tonight. They hit Cult of Personality. No. Wrong cult. Thinking of the wrong cult. No. The Riho regime has a lot of members to it. Some of you may be part of it. Yes, Riho is back. We have not seen Riho on this show. She had a match in April for the championship against Jamie Hayter. That's the last time we saw Riho on AEW Dynamite. Riho was back, and she got a very good reaction from the crowd. The people like to see Riho. So Riho comes down to the ring, and she ends up drop-kicking Toni Storm to the floor. She was teasing a dive out to the floor, but Luther pulled Storm away, and Riho was left patting the women's title that Toni Storm left behind in the ring. Now, I know a lot of people are going to shit on Riho. You know, look, I'm having some fun with it here myself, but the thing about Riho is she always gets a very nice reaction from the crowd. They hit her music, especially if some time has gone by and we haven't seen her. Sometimes she goes back to Japan, I think, and she disappears for a few months. I don't know if that's what happened here. It probably was. But she came out, and again, she got a very positive reception from the crowd. So, at least with the AEW audience, she's over. And what it does is it gives Toni Storm a solid babyface to work against. I presume they're going to have a match at World's End. I don't know what Riho would have done to deserve a title shot, but they don't have rankings in this company anymore, so I guess it doesn't matter. But it gives her a solid babyface to work with. Even Skye Blue, I mean, is she a babyface or is she a heel? I don't know. It's been a little in between of late. Riho is, she's a solid babyface for Toni Storm to beat. So I don't have an issue with it. The match that I'm waiting for, and it's going to take a little while longer to get there because she's obviously not ready to come back yet, is Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm. Now, Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm had an excellent match at Full Gear 1 year ago. That was a very different Toni Storm. She's playing a totally different role now on TV. Actually, the roles are reversed now, where Hayter would be the babyface and Toni would be the heel. But that's the match I'm hoping that we get to see before Toni loses the belt. Months ago, the last I heard was that Jamie might be back by February. I don't know if that's changed. I don't know if it's going to be later than February. February is not that far away. And in fact, that could be the Revolution match at the beginning of March. If Jamie Hayter can be back in time, it could be Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm for the women's title of Revolution. That's the match I want to see. So what do you do with Toni Storm in the meantime, right? She already beat Skye Blue on this show. I thought they were going to do this match at World's End. I was surprised they blew it off here. Little did I know that the Riho regime would be in full force and Riho would be back, right? We should all salute. The Riho regime, I'm telling you, the Riho regime, it's a very real thing. So anyway, I'm hoping that Jamie Hayter will be back by then. She is very much missed in this women's division. There's been a lot of talk lately about the AEW women's division and Mercedes Moné, and is she going to come in or not? And, at All In, they invited her to be at Wembley. And they showed her multiple times on TV. And if you would have asked me then, I would have said, well, for sure. They obviously have some sort of, at least a verbal agreement. And when she's healed up and ready, they're obviously going to bring her in. That was in August. Here we are now in December. And not only does it not feel like Mercedes is going to AEW, I don't know that it makes sense for her to go to AEW unless she just wants to maintain that level of freedom where she can work AEW and still work Japan if that's important to her. And I know that was a very important thing to her. But she's already done it. You know, maybe she got it out of her system. And she's ready to go back home. Because it feels to me like if we see her back on television soon, it's going to be on WWE television. It ain't going to be on AEW television. And there's a few matches with her I would love to see in AEW, but it doesn't feel, it's almost like a 180 from the feeling back in August. Now it's like it shifted totally in the other direction to where there's actually an ongoing story in WWE right now that would be perfect for her to come back into, involving Bayley and Damage Control. It's right there, right? Going into WrestleMania, going into the Royal Rumble. It just doesn't feel to me like we're going to be seeing Mercedes on an AEW television anytime soon. Could be wrong, though, right? We know she's coming back. She dropped a return training vignette on her social media earlier in the week. So we know that she's all healed up and she's ready to come back. What decision is she going to make? Only she knows. WWE, though, would feel like the better place for her right now. Match number 3, the final match in the Gold League tournament here tonight on Dynamite. It was between Jay Lethal and Jay White, the double J's. It was heel against heel. Lethal battled back after a commercial break with a lethal combination into a torture rack, and he hit a top rope elbow. Jay White kicked out. Lethal wanted a lethal injection, but fired off kicks instead, and White answered with a knee breaker and a suplex into the corner. Then a brain buster got him a 2 count. We got a chop exchange between both men. And then we got eye rakes. Hulk Hogan would be proud. That's all his offense used to be. When he was the top babyface in WWE, you know what Hulk Hogan's signature moves were? Eye rakes and back rakes. Fucking heel. How did I not see that, man? Maybe because I was 5. That's all he ever did. Eye rake, back rake. This is the man that I looked up to as a young wrestling fan. This is the man that I wanted to emulate when I was a young wrestling fan. This was my influence. So both men traded finisher attempts. Jay White chop blocked the leg as Lethal was midway into a lethal injection. So he chop blocked him, and then they traded pin attempts. White got the high stack, and he got the pin to win. 3 more points in the tournament. That now gives him 6 points total. This did not have the heat of the earlier 2 matches that we had on the show because they haven't done anything to make you think that Jay Lethal is a credible contender in this tournament. We know Jay Lethal is very talented. We know Jay Lethal had a lot of success in Ring of Honor. But it doesn't mean anything because he goes out there every week and he loses. So nobody in their right mind thought that Jay White was losing to Jay Lethal. So there was no drama there. But the work was very good. I had no issue with the work. It's just, in a lot of ways, it was a very cold match compared to the other 2. This was the worst of the 3 matches of the tournament on the show tonight. But then we had our main event, which was Adam Copeland, one-on-one with Christian Cage for the TNT Championship. The last time Edge and Christian did battle in the middle of the ring in a singles match was all the way back in 2010. You know what else happened in 2010? That was when the Nexus debuted and attacked John Cena. 2010 is the year that Shawn Michaels retired from wrestling, never to come back into the ring again. People talk about 2018, something happened. I have no memory of that. It never happened. Shawn Michaels retired in 2010 against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26. That's how far back you'd have to go to find an Edge and Christian match. And that was in another company altogether. So they found themselves back in the ring here in Canada, of all places. They were in Montreal. Adam starts with a huge slap to the face, locks on a sleeper, gets him down on the mat. Christian gets to the ropes to break it. Now he's out on the apron. Copeland hits the ropes, and then he hits a tackle that sends Cage flying off the apron to the floor and into the barricade. Copeland follows. He slams Christian face first on top of the announce desk a few times. And then Copeland sends Cage back inside. He is pleading for mercy as the TNT champion. He's begging off. He tries for a low blow. Of course, Copeland knows exactly who he is, right? They've known each other for 40 years. So he's able to catch it. He stomps the hand. Copeland then sends Cage back out of the ring. He whips him into the barricade. Christian, though, is able to gain control off a whip into the ring post, and that takes us into the final commercial break of the show. Cage sidestepped a spear through the ropes, and he wanted a pendulum kick, but Copeland countered, hit a diving clothesline off the second rope. Both men end up on the floor outside the ring. Cage answered a drop toe hold into the ring steps, and back inside he ended up hitting a frog splash, got a 2 count out of it. Cage wanted a spear. Copeland, though, countered into an impaler DDT. So as he came in for the spear, he caught him, he hooked him, and then he picked him up and hit the impaler. Got 2 of his own. Christian cut Copeland off in the corner. Copeland, though, slid underneath him, and he connected with a running Liger bomb, which looked great. Out of the corner, Christian, though, kicks out. So now Christian tries for the kill switch, and Copeland counters out of that, gets an inside cradle, only 2. We got another kill switch, countered into an Edge-o-matic for 2. They were going through their greatest hits here in this match. Copeland locks on the crossface, but Christian got his foot on the bottom rope for the break. Copeland tried to cave Christian's face into the mats. Christian's out on the mat, and he's dropping forearms here, like the whole, as Michael Cole back in the day would say, the pound and ground. Not the ground and pound. It's the pound and ground. He's trying to pound him into the ground with forearms. Then he stood up, and Copeland went to the corner, and he got that crazy look at his eyes. He got the crazy eyes. He was setting up for the spear. Christian, though, leapfrogs over Copeland as he comes in, and then he finally connects with the kill switch. Copeland kicks out. Now Christian is in the corner, and Christian is setting up for a spear of his own. Copeland, though, dives out of the way as Christian comes in, and Copeland made contact with referee Bryce Remsburg. Now, he didn't bump him to where he knocked him out, but he bumped Bryce, and now Bryce is, I don't know if he got, something in his eye or something, but he's got his back turned, and Christian sees this, and the sniveling little shit that he is, Christian sees the referee's back turned, and so what does he do? He kicks Bryce Remsburg from behind in the balls, and down goes the referee. Not only did he kick him in the balls, he went out of his way to do it. That's a heel. So now the referee is down. Christian goes to the floor. He grabs the TNT title. He brings it back into the ring, and he's going to use it to knock out Copeland. Copeland, though, ducks the belt shot. Both men hit the ropes a couple of different times. They end up colliding in midair on spear attempts. They both had the same idea. And so they slammed into each other, and we got a double down. And at this point, I'm just looking at the aisle, and I'm just waiting. I'm saying, where is she? Where is she? This is what Christian does, right? Where is she? I know she's coming. I know she's coming. Because the referee is down, Christian is down, Edge is down. Here comes Mama Wayne. Shayna Wayne, Nick Wayne's mom, is on her way down to the ring, and in no great rush to get there either, by the way. So she starts walking down to the ring right on cue. And she gets in the ring, and she picks up the TNT title. Christian is on the ground, on his knees. He's begging off. She's motioning like she's going to hit him, but then she motions like she's going to hit Copeland. And then she turns back to Christian. She's waiting for Copeland to get back to his feet. And as soon as Copeland is vertical, Nick Wayne's mother hits Adam Copeland with the TNT Championship. And as I said earlier, the crowd goes mild. You could just hear the universal disappointment in their voices. So Christian picks up Copeland, hits the kill switch, then he rolls him over face first down on top of the TNT title. He places his boot on his surgically repaired neck, and he shouts that he's going to break his neck, and then he stomps on it, Then he rolls him over. Bryce now is back over. And Bryce Remsburg counts the 3. To retain the TNT Championship is one Christian Cage. Still your champion. Still your father. So we got no makeout session here. There was no kissy-kissy between Christian and Shayna. Christian looked surprised, like he didn't know this was going to happen. And so she left. So now the question is, was the next spot where he stomped on Copeland's neck, did he do that because the idea is to prolong this beyond World's End? And they're not going to do the match at World's End. They're actually going to wait, maybe do it at Revolution. They could just as easily bring him back in 2 weeks, right? I wouldn't expect Copeland to be on the show next week. But could he come back in 2 weeks and then set up the rematch for the Nassau Coliseum? Absolutely. But why rush it? You just did the first match tonight, right? It's December 6th. Do you really need to run the match back right away at the end of the month? I mean, why not prolong it a little bit? Do the match on pay-per-view. Do it in March, right? Do it at Revolution. You could find a couple of people for Christian to defend his title against in the meantime on TV. Or one person for him to defend it against. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do here. I think that spot, though, gives them an out if they want to keep Copeland out for a little while. But if not, then I guess we're going to get the rematch at World's End. But, yeah, the thing about this finish here. I mean, I predicted this finish. I'm sure a lot of people did because it made sense. I'm not saying it doesn't. The reason I predicted it is because the story was right there. When Copeland gave Nick Wayne a concerto, Nick Wayne's mom was in the corner watching it happen right in front of her eyes. And so it was obvious that as soon as Copeland took out his 2 lackeys, he was going to need somebody to interfere in this match because Christian Cage was not losing the TNT Championship tonight. At no point should anybody have honestly believed that Christian was going to lose the TNT title in Montreal. So how did they get out of it? They could have done a cheap finish and had him kick the referee in the balls face to face, and then the referee calls for the disqualification, but that would have been a pretty lame finish. I'm not sure this finish was all that much less lame, but there was no other way to do this except have somebody else. And the only other person that would have made sense in this story was Nick Wayne's mom. The fact that it was Nick Wayne's mom is fucking lame. But that's the story they told. And I don't know if she's going to be part of Christian's crew or if she was just sticking up for her son as a one-time thing. You know, I'm not doing it to help him. I'm doing it because of what you did to my baby boy. Now, if she ends up joining with Christian and Nick Wayne and the dinosaur, you know, is it ridiculous? Of course it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because this man has corrupted her son. It's ridiculous because this man has made horrible comments about her dead husband. But you could always justify it or explain it in storyline by simply saying, okay, her son disowned her. This woman already lost her husband. She doesn't want to lose her son too. And so she did what she did in order to maintain a relationship with her own son. And so she'll be with them, not because she wants to be, but because she feels like she has to be. And that's how you can tell that story in a somewhat logical way. Because I would suspect that we're going to be seeing her more often now on television. But again, you know, I watched this and I just thought to myself, okay, this is how the first Edge and Christian match in 13 years comes to an end. By having another wrestler's mom interfere in the finish. It's pretty lame, right? It's pretty fucking lame. Makes sense. Predictable is all shit, but it did make sense for the story. And now we wait to see when we get the eventual rematch between the two of them. The match itself was good. The work in the match I thought was good. It was not the best match on the show. By far, it was not the best match on the show. And this is not the same Edge in 2023 that we had in 2010, the last time these two were in the ring together one-on-one. He's 13 years older. So is Christian. But you know what? To his credit, I've enjoyed the matches that Christian has had here in the latter part of his career more than I have the matches that Edge has had. Doesn't mean I've hated the matches that Edge has had, but I think that Christian has had the better, stronger matches. Christian has not missed in AEW so far. The matches he had with Kenny Omega, including the one on Rampage, where he beat him to win the Impact World title. Then they had a match at All Out, I believe it was. The matches that Christian has had with other people like Darby Allin and Bryan Danielson and Jack Perry, right? The Buried Alive match or whatever they called it that they had. Christian has had some excellent matches in AEW so far. So we know he can still go. But, again, 13 years later, they're 13 years older. You can't expect them to have exactly the same kind of matches that they were having all those years ago. But it was good. It was still a good match, I thought. And now we look ahead to Rampage coming up on Friday. We have Konosuke Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs taking on Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels. And, I get that he wasn't in the tournament, and so they really just, at the moment, he's kind of shelved until the Continental Classic is over. We're going through this weird period now. Kenny Omega is wrestling Ethan Page on Collision this Saturday. And I'm all for pushing Ethan Page if Tony Khan would actually push Ethan Page. I doubt that's what this is. They were in Canada, so they're doing a match between two Canadians. It's a way to get Kenny Omega on the show, right? They had their match last night. It was already taped. It's going to be airing on Saturday on Collision. Right now, you've got Kenny Omega on the back burner. Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho won a shot at the tag team titles. I have no idea. I guess they're going to wait until World's End, I guess. But, in the meantime, we have this entire period that's going by where it just feels like we're sort of on ice until we get there. But you've got Konosuke Takeshita doing matches like this when he should be involved in something. And he's on the back burner right now. And it's very annoying to see this. I get they have a tournament going on. I understand that. But they should have found something else for him to do, instead of him just being relegated into the background. And I could say the same thing about Powerhouse Hobbs. Powerhouse Hobbs joins the Don Callis family. And people thought, well, okay, maybe this will be the moment that finally they do something meaningful with Powerhouse Hobbs, because he was part of Team Taz, and that only got him so far. And then he was with QT Marshall, and that didn't do shit for him. Now he's part of the Don Callis family. And okay, well, what has it done so far for Powerhouse Hobbs? It hasn't done a damn thing. But he'll be on Rampage on Friday. Abaddon takes on Trish Adora. Orange Cassidy and Danhausen are going to be on the show. Every time they show Danhausen and Orange Cassidy on screen, you hear in the background, gets a big pop from the crowd. And Bryan Danielson is going to be wrestling on Rampage on Friday against Daniel Garcia in the Continental Classic. Then on Collision the next night, which again was already taped, Danielson is going to be wrestling in another tournament match. This time it's going to be against Andrade El Idolo. We also have Claudio taking on Eddie Kingston in the Blue League. Kenny Omega takes on Ethan Page. Willow Nightingale takes on Mercedes Martinez. Probably the only Mercedes that Tony Khan will be able to sign. Wardlow takes on Willie Mack. And we have Penta. We have Commander taking on Angelo Parker and Matt Menard. And that is the lineup for Collision coming up on Saturday. Now, next Wednesday is Winter is Coming. The annual Winter is Coming episode of Dynamite. We have Jon Moxley against Swerve Strickland, which is going to be fucking great. We've got Jay White taking on Mark Briscoe, which is going to be great, because Mark Briscoe has yet to miss in this tournament, even though he has no points. Roosh takes on Jay Lethal. Hangman takes on Roderick Strong. And the Von Erichs, Ross and Marshall Von Erich, will be on Dynamite next week with Kevin Von Erich. They're going to be in Texas. And so they're trotting out the Von Erichs. And not just because they're in Texas, but I kind of expected this. The Iron Claw comes out in a few weeks. December 22nd is when the Iron Claw movie comes out. That's about the Von Erich family. MJF has an executive producer credit in the movie. He's actually in the movie. He plays the fake Von Erich cousin, Lance Von Erich. And so they're going to be on the show next week. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of promotion for the Iron Claw. And we'll see if there's any interaction between MJF and the Von Erichs. Hey, maybe the Von Erichs are some of the masked Devil's minions, right? Maybe they're going to bring Ross and Marshall in. They're going to be revealed as some of the Devil's men, right? That's possible. We'll see if they have any interaction with MJF on the show. But that is the Winter is Coming episode of Dynamite for next Wednesday. Here's the Twitter poll for Dynamite tonight. Dynamite from Montreal, 66% thumbs up and 34% thumbs down is the current score as it stands. So at Solomonster on Twitter to vote in the poll. We are running about 30 likes shy of the 400 goal so far, so get those likes on in. If we get 400, we will do Be the Booker later on, but we're a little behind right now. So go ahead and hit that thumbs up. Let's take a look at your messages right now. What did you guys think of this show tonight? Ross and Marshall can't be the Devil's minions. The Devil's minions had shoes on. That's a good point. I think that the Von Erichs are incapable of wearing footwear. They should have gotten Matt Riddle to play one of the Von Erichs in the movie. He actually kind of looks like a modern-day Von Erich in a way. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't cast him in that movie. But then again, he was working for WWE. They probably would have said no. Actually, given all of his issues and all the controversy around him, it was probably for the better. Groovy Goose. Maybe the reason the Hardys are not getting TV time is because Jeff is too busy dancing around in the back. Maybe. You might be onto something there. Steve Joseph, was the hype real? Did you like the Godzilla movie? I saw Godzilla, what was it? Godzilla -1. I did see the Godzilla movie. I saw it in IMAX last night. And I enjoyed it. It was good. It was good. I think that there was a lot of overhype around this movie. I think I don't know. I came out of it after reading all of the glowing reviews, and I was expecting a little more. I will say this, and I'm not giving away too much in the way of spoilers here, but I'll just say this. I was very surprised by how quickly they threw Godzilla out there at the beginning of the movie. Like, the movie basically just started, and it's like, whoa, okay. I wasn't expecting this. See, I came into it, and I was expecting more of like, the sort of backstory tied into the war and the radiation and everything, and then you would kind of build to the first appearance, and it was not what I expected. So that was surprising. But, I mean, look, it's good. It's good, but I can't sit here and tell you that it's the greatest thing I've seen all year or anything like that, so. I think the really hardcore Godzilla fans probably liked it a lot more than I did. As I sit here just waiting for that Cloverfield sequel to eventually come out. Steve, thank you for the question. Tommy Colella with the $10 super chat. Today is my 41st birthday, and my wife gave me the best gift possible. I'm going to be a dad for the first time. How about that? It says, I will make sure my child will be the Solomonster listener. That is very cool. Tommy, congratulations. It's very, very cool. Got a little Solomonster fan in the making. I'm sure I'm not the only one to... you said I gave it a mid review. I'm not even saying it's mid. I'm just saying, like, it's not the, like, holy shit, what a fucking movie that everybody was telling me that it was. I really thought it was going to be more of, I guess, like an origin story kind of building to the big moment. And I don't know, it just wasn't what I was expecting. And I stayed away from the trailer and everything. I went into the actual film as cold as I possibly could, outside of all the glowing, you got to see it reviews. And yeah, I guess I'm a little colder than most people were coming out of it. So we'll see, though. I'll probably see the Iron Claw in a few weeks. We'll see if I like that better. Giandre Kincannon, what was the plan for Benoit against Punk? Was Benoit gonna turn heel? I don't know about Benoit turning heel, but I believe the plan was for Benoit to win the belt and be the ECW champion. He was gonna be the face of the ECW brand. And a lot of the news stories at the time painted it as, oh, he was upset that he was being demoted. as if like he did what he did and wiped out his family because he was upset that he was being demoted to the ECW roster. Like, again, I could just rant all day about the media coverage of that story, but he was going to win the title. I don't know about the heel turn, but he was going to win the title that night. Lady Fire Panda with a $20 super chat. Screw Taylor Swift. Solomonster is my person of the year. Very nice of you to say that. At least I got one fan in Lady Fire. Achu, bless you. That's good. I like that. Gesundheit. Sling caption. Adam Cooper clan against what? Chris Chin came? Oh, I see. Okay. That was for the main event tonight. The sling caption for the main event tonight. Adam Cooper clan against Chris Chin Kane. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Rojo Bear, I hope Toni signs the Von Erichs. I love their work in MLW. Yeah, again, they haven't wrestled in, God, I mean, maybe a year and a half. I don't even know what their interest level is in wrestling at this point. I mean, it's been so long. It's not like they've been working independents or anything like that. Bobbert Reviews, thank you for that $32 drop from earlier. Samoan fan, have you seen the new Godzilla movie? We've talked about that already. I have indeed. Justin G, hear me out. Nobody is talking about Swerve being the devil. I mean, he wants the title. Someone shows up and he's on it. No, I don't see Swerve being the devil. I don't see it. I don't see it. Eric Deshawn missed the show tonight. Was Hornswoggle revealed to be the devil? Not yet. There's still time. Unregistered Hypercam. Riho has been helping a startup fed in Singapore. Okay, so she has not been in Japan. She's been in Singapore. Look at this. Is there nothing this woman can't do? She's wrestling. She's setting up promotions in other countries. Look at this. How can you not be a fan of Riho? This woman puts the work in. The Juliet says, rest in peace to the legend and icon Norman Lear. Yes, very sad to hear that he passed away. 101 years old. I mean, you can't say he didn't live a full life. I mean, once you cross the century mark, it's like you're pretty much just rolling the dice at that point. I mean, he lived a pretty fulfilled life, I would say. And All in the Family, just obviously one of the all-time great television shows. Evan Watson, it was hard to watch men's war games after the Texas death match. Should war games feel more violent seeing how much they hype it? Maybe fake blood. No, we don't need fake blood. Yeah, if they want to have real blood, they don't allow real blood, though. And fake blood, people are going to see right through it. I don't think you need fake blood. Should war games be more violent? Yeah, it should. It's war games. Do you see the things that they do to each other in war games? It's actually kind of hilarious that you don't see more blood in those matches for all the things that they do to each other. The blood that we do get, it's very limited, but the blood we get is real. I mean, there is some real hardway blood, but you know, you're getting a PG war games. That's what it is, you know? I mean, that's what WWE is. I don't know if that'll change over time now that Endeavor owns it, if they'll kind of loosen the reins a little bit around stuff like that, but for now, you know, it's a PG product. You get PG war games. Roberto Benet, I want a Willow run. I assume he's referring to Willow Nightingale and not Willow. We don't need that Willow run. Dan Richards, Edge was in the greatest match ever. Checkmate. Oh, you got me there. That's true. I forgot about that. He was in the greatest match ever. Abu Sika. Shayna Wayne. Yes, the ghost has returned. Thank you, Abu Sika. Always good to see the little ghost. And first name John with the $9.99. Wasn't in the mood for a bunch of marathon matches tonight. Not enough promo time on this show for me. Edge against Copeland. Wasn't very good, in my opinion, with a shite ending. Well, it was a shite ending. But I didn't mind. The match was good. I didn't mind the match too much. You know, I wasn't expecting the... Look, you're not going to get with a Copeland match, you're not going to get the knockdown drag out that you get from a lot of the other 8 members of the AEW roster. I enjoyed seeing the two of them back in the ring because it's been so long since we've seen it. And I wasn't expecting this to be their best anyway, because I know it's building to a pay-per-view match. And it's like, we saw Punk and MJF, for example. The first Punk MJF match was not the dog collar match at Revolution. It was a television match in Chicago. And as I remember, I think it was a very good match, but you've got to leave some for the rematch. So, you know, even though they were in Canada, and I'm sure they wanted to go out there and they wanted to, you know, tear down the house, that's not what tonight was about. Tonight was more setting things up for the angle at the end and then building to the rematch. And I think if you knew that going in, and you kind of had those expectations going into it, I still think they had a good match. Not a great match, but I do agree with you on the ending. Even though I saw it coming a mile away, it was a very lame ending. Enrique Gotti, what did you think of Ric Flair being on Joey Merlino's podcast? I don't even know who Joey Merlino is. I don't know who that is. I'm not aware of it. I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. I know Flair was on Theo Von's podcast a little while ago, so was Hogan. I talked about Flair walking off the Kill Tony podcast, did a whole segment on that. But this, I don't know. I haven't seen it, I haven't heard it, so I don't know. John, that was a work. You're talking about Danielson being injured. Yeah, there were some reports going around that Danielson got hurt. He might have been busted open in his match last night on the Collision taping against Andrade, but all this talk about him being hurt again and everything, that's just part of the storyline. I'm not even sure it's part of the storyline. It's just, I think people saw that and they just sort of ran with it and thought that, he was seriously injured, and apparently that's not the case. Although with Bryan, look, the rate he's been getting hurt this year, can you really blame people if they thought that he suffered another injury? Would it really be that hard to believe? I don't think so. Unfortunately, he's had quite a few of them recently. We got a couple more coming in here. Let me see where we are on the likes. We are at 410. Very good. So always good to see that. But let's just get to a few more of these. We had a whole influx of them just now here. Let's see. Samoan fan coming in with the $2 super chat. One thing Riho cannot do is find a man. LOL. One thing Riho can't do is find a man? How do you know she's not married? How do you know that she's not in a relationship right now? How do you know that Riho isn't dating Jungle Boy or so? Well, I guess Anna Jay would have something to say about that. No, maybe they have like a little three-way thing going on here, you know? You don't know. Robotech Guy with the $10 super chat says, will the Soloverse expand to other live platforms such as Twitch, or is it YouTube for life? Great work as always. Well, life is very long, so I can't say for life that it will only be YouTube. But yes, no, it is YouTube. For these streams, it is YouTube. There is a Twitch, but no plans to simulcast at this moment. HBKC83 with the $5 super chat. Was watching a few Sting matches back in TNA and wanted to ask, could a heel Willow against Sting in TNA work back then? You mean heel Willow as in, okay, Willow Jeff Hardy? No, I mean, Jeff Hardy never should have been a heel in the first place. Jeff Hardy is a babyface. And so turning Jeff Hardy heel was a dumb idea to begin with. Reed Gotti says that Joey Merlino is a former Philadelphia mob boss. Okay, well, I'd never heard of him before you just mentioned his name. I know people like Sammy the Bull. I don't know Joey Merlino. I have not heard Ric Flair on his podcast. Near says, Happy Hanukkah to everybody celebrating. It's good to hear from Near. Thank you, sir. Same to you. Rumpelmane, Shayna Wayne feet. So we're just sort of going down the list here, are we? Rumpelmane. Soon he's going to send one in. It's going to say Mae Young's feet. That's when I'm just going to have to cut you off at that point. That right there is going to be one too far. And Jazz Jackrabbit, who is now officially banned from Collision. Great live events. Dynamite better show, though. You could cut the tension during the main event. Not sure why Tony Khan wanted 2 shows in the biggest NHL arena. There was a noticeable difference in attendance. Yeah, I mean, look, that's the problem. When you book buildings that are that big and you only fill them halfway, you can frame it on the hard cam where you can, and TNA was the master of that. Back in the day when they first started going on the road, I mean, they were running buildings that were pretty big in some cases and putting very few people in them, but they would, on TV, shoot them in a way where it looked great. And so there were ways to do that. I remember when TNA, they ran a show. I think it was Bound for Glory at the Alamo Dome. The fucking Alamo Dome, which fits like 70,000 people. And they sectioned, like they curtained off a little like corner of it. I think they had 7,000 people there in a 70,000 seat building. Like, I would not advise doing that. So yes, running bigger buildings and filling them only halfway is not the way to go. I don't know if there just wasn't a smaller building available in Montreal for him to run, or if he just, he may have looked at it when he booked it and thought, well, it's our first trip there. And so the first trip to Montreal will do well. Like their first trip to Toronto, I think, did well, right? I can see that being the logic. But the problem is when you have a product that is not hot, and it's certainly not hot in the way that it used to be. There was a period of time where they could have put more people in that building than they did tonight, and especially last night. I saw some of those pictures, and it just was embarrassing. You have to adjust, and in some cases, you have to just start booking smaller buildings, because if you have a smaller building that you're able to fill in, it's just going to look and feel so much better on television. It's going to sound better. Just visually, it's going to be more appealing. Nobody wants to look at a half-empty building. And right now, they're having attendance issues where they really should not be running bigger buildings unless it's a very big show, right? They can book Wembley Stadium and they can put 40, 50, 60,000 people in there. But as far as running events, live events here in this country, and evidently now even in Canada, they really need to start booking smaller buildings. And I'm not saying they all have to be 2,000-seat buildings, but clearly they're having issues right now. And, they could always charge higher ticket prices. So even though they're selling fewer tickets, they're making more money off of it. The point is, though, it doesn't look good. It's a bad look for the company. That's an issue that Tony Khan has to address going forward as they book these different venues. Oz and Glorious says, great stream as always, down with pneumonia right now, so this is extra appreciated. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you feel better soon. I thought for a second there, I thought you were reciting like a song lyric. Like, down with pneumonia. Like, I didn't realize you're down with pneumonia, so I'm sorry to hear that. Feel better soon. Jazz Jackrabbit again. Daddy Magic. Super over on Dark Match. Love him. Well, he's a Canadian, right?
Look,
so
everyone,
makes sense if
it's
they're in Canada.
Samoa BRO.
They're in Canada, that he would be over. Lady Fire Panda, thank you for the $20 Samoa Bro. Heel Jeff Hardy was great. I don't care what you say. Also, his Immortal belt was kick-ass. P.S. Another Me is Jeff's best theme song. I did like his heel theme song. I won't lie. I thought it was actually a very good theme song. But Jeff Hardy as a heel was never going to last. Some people are just meant to be a babyface. They're not meant to be heels. I feel like Jeff Hardy falls into that category. Drunk Guy says, down with the sickness. Yes, Oz and Glorious, unfortunately, is down with the sickness. Eric the Shawn, I figured it out. The devil is none other than Jim Cornette. Long-term booking at its finest. You want to put some money on that? You want to put some real money on that? I don't think you do. All right, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
It is time to be the booker. We have hit our goal. I thank you very much. All right. Let's see what we got here on a Wednesday night, shall we? We've got a tag team match to book here. I'm going to push. I have a magic button right here. I don't know what's going to happen when I hit this button. Remember Conan O'Brien used to have that lever that he would pull for the Walker Texas Ranger clip that he would play? Push this button here and see. And we have William Regal and Tajiri. Or as Stone Cold Steve Austin would call him, Tajiri. William Regal and Tajiri, former Raw Tag Team Champions, going to be stepping into the ring and defending those belts against Hollywood Hogan and the Worm, Dennis Rodman. Hogan is a pro. Regal is great. Those two alone, forget even Tajiri, those two alone would carry the match. Rodman doesn't have to do much. So you've got enough star power in that match, and you have enough people in there who know what they're doing to where I think you would end up with an entertaining match. Might even see Tajiri mist Rodman. Spray the poison mist in his eyes. I give that the bell. Ladies, be the booker. All right. We have got... Oh, is that Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano I see? Yeah, they don't get enough credit for the matches they had. Even I, as a younger fan, didn't really fully appreciate it back when they were happening in 95. But you look back on it, and honestly, some of the best stuff in WWE that year probably was when these two were in the ring together. But we've got Bull Nakano, a fantastic worker in her day. If you saw a picture of her now, you probably wouldn't even recognize her. She's actually a beautiful lady. We've got Bull Nakano going one-on-one. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We have landed on triple threat, which means we not only have one more opponent to pick, we have two. So Bull Nakano will be in a triple threat match. And now we will have to spin and find out who it is that she is going to be against. A rare stipulation here in Be the Booker. We have... Well, how about this? We've got Bull Nakano, we've got Io Skye. I like where this is going. We could just end it right here. We don't even have to pick another person. All that picking one more person will do is ruin the match. Well, what can I do? I'm bound by the stipulation. We have to pick one more. Bull Nakano, Io Skye, man, this is either going to be really, really good or really, really bad. And Liv Morgan. Not going to hate on Liv. Liv is most definitely not at the level of Io Skye or Bull Nakano. But she doesn't ruin the match either. So there you go. There's your triple threat match. What do you think about that? Bull Nakano, Io Skye, and Liv Morgan. We are 2 for 2 with an unexpected stipulation. Always, you gotta love that. You gotta love that. Now we come to men's Be the Booker. Here we go. Here we go. It is time to pick our main event. We begin with the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. I feel a kinship with this man. I used to go to Ring of Honor shows, and people used to say, "You look just like Bryan Danielson." I would go, "No, I don't." And they would say, "Yes, you do." This was before he had the facial hair. They call me Baby Dragon. Piss off. Bryan Danielson, one-on-one with, let's get a drum roll. We always like the good dramatic drum roll here. Bryan Danielson gonna go one-on-one with Bobby Lashley. The almighty Bobby Lashley. There you go. Bobby Lashley, who is, what is he now, 48 years old or something. He looks exactly the same. If anything, he actually looks better somehow. This guy looks, he's like etched out of granite, this guy. He looks amazing. I want to know what his secret is. Bobby Lashley and Bryan Danielson, there is your main event. And that, ladies and gentlemen, completes the clean sweep. And I don't know that I could be any happier than I am with that card right there. That is amazing. A Boney with the $2 coming on in. Is William Regal allowed on WWE TV next month? I believe he is. I believe he was supposed to not be on TV for a year. And so if they wanted to use him, I believe as of next month, or maybe this month, I think they can. Oh, look who it is! Pyro. Pyro everywhere. The Pyro Bomb, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Cody Bomb. It is the Cody Bomb from our boy ABK. Say it with me now.
It's ABK. Always be killing it.
Always be killing it. ABK says good morning with a $412 super chat bomb. And to ABK, I say good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Holy shit. You know, it's been quiet. We haven't heard, I feel like we haven't heard from ABK for at least a week. If like a week goes by without hearing from him, I start to get worried. So I'm glad he is there. That is how you drop a bomb. Here to close things out on YouTube. Man, nobody does it better, man. You got ABK and Silver Tower, man. I tell you, man, they're like the brothers of destruction, those two. And then you could turn it into a triple threat and you throw JM in there, but then Lady Firepen is managing them. You put that foursome together. There's your 4 horsemen right there. Or 4 horsemen / women. I don't know. ABK, holy shit, man. Thank you for the 400 bomb. Amazing. BlissFan says ABK had to replenish his funds. I don't know, but I'm very happy to have him with us. I'll tell you that much. That put a smile on my face. So, after a clean sweep and Be the Booker and an ABK bomb, I don't know how we can possibly end this stream on a better note. I am going to be back with you on Friday night. We're going to talk about SmackDown. I do want to let everybody know, for those who were maybe having issues streaming or downloading any of the audio shows, Sunday show, the Raw review, which did go up as it normally goes up on Tuesday in the morning. There were issues on the Spreaker end yesterday, and the feed was broken. So when I logged in at the end of the day yesterday to take a look at the numbers for the Raw review, and I saw that the Raw review after whatever it was, 12 or 13 hours, had 11 downloads, I wanted to throw myself out the window. So that was terrible, and that put me in a very bad mood. And it wasn't until earlier today that it finally got fixed. So everything should be working now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music and Google and all the usual places you guys get the audio shows, including these reviews when they go up the next day. Please let me know if you are still having issues. It could take a while maybe to still push out to certain platforms, but everything should still be working. Everything should be in working order now, so I apologize for that. Anyway, Friday night, like I said, we'll do this again after SmackDown. It is the Tribute to the Troops episode, but it is not what I would call, I don't think it's like a throwaway episode. In the past, when they've done matches on the Tribute to the Troops shows, all the baby faces win. It's just a feel-good thing. It's not really storyline driven. I don't really think that's the way it is anymore. In fact, there's talk that this could be the week that AJ Styles possibly, I've been hearing this for a month now, but we'll see if AJ pops back up on the show on Friday night. But we'll talk about that. And then, of course, when is the next AEW pay-per-view? That is World's End. That is on December 30th, which is going to be very interesting because there's actually something I've been invited to that night, kind of a New Year's thing, that I will probably say no to. I'll probably be here with you for World's End. But that Sunday, we're going to be doing a New Year's Eve stream. I'll let you guys know now. We've been doing it the last 3 or 4 years, really since the first, pandemic year. So I guess this would be year 3, I guess. We've been doing our Make It Till Midnight New Year's Eve stream. I'm going to be live again on New Year's Eve, as I have been the past few years. But because it's a Sunday, and because there's an AEW pay-per-view the night before, and you know how late those AEW shows go, what I'm thinking about doing is I'll be here. We'll go through World's End on the 30th. That Sunday, the 31st, what I think we'll do is we will do a live sound-off on YouTube. So instead of doing the regular sound-off audio show that day, we'll do the sound-off on YouTube that night. I have a feeling that's going to be the prediction show, the annual prediction show that we do. And so we'll hang out on New Year's Eve as we always do. We'll count down until midnight, and we'll do a sound-off that night. So there you go. That's the current plan right now. If that changes, I'll let you guys know. But that is what I am. That is what I am thinking for New Year's Eve. So if you have no New Year's Eve plans, you can spend your New Year's Eve here. I'm sure there'll be a lot of familiar faces in the live chat. And you get yourself a live sound-off. How about that? Because the plan right now is I'm going to be doing my top matches of 2023 and kind of a year in review, plus the news of the week on Christmas Eve. I'm not waiting until the end of the year to do the top matches countdown. I just don't want to let it bleed into the new year. Once you get to January, it's like nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean? It's 2024. No one's thinking about 2023 anymore. So we're going to do the top matches on Christmas Eve. That'll be that episode. And then New Year's Eve, live on YouTube, we'll do predictions. That way I can bring you guys into it too. You guys can also send in super chats and messages in the live chat with your predictions for 2024. So start thinking about what your predictions are going to be for the wrestling world in 2024. Jazz with the final super chat here. Not sure if you touched on this, but was reading about it today. Danielson injury is a work. He wrestled on Rampage tonight. Yes, I did mention that before, that it was all storyline. People were concerned coming out of the tapings last night, but he is as okay as can be. I mean, obviously he's never fully okay, but yes, Danielson is not re-injured or anything like that. He better not be. He's got a big match coming up with Okada at the Tokyo Dome, so he can't get hurt. He can't get hurt before the Tokyo Dome. He's got to be okay. We got to protect that man at all costs. All right, guys. Come on back on Friday. We'll do it all over again. This audio should be up by late morning tomorrow for those of you who want to download the audio. And even if you watched it tonight, it does help me out a lot on Spreaker. I always like being in the top shows on Spreaker. So make sure you support the show there as well. And I will see you back here live for more Sound Off after SmackDown on Friday night right here on YouTube. Take care, guys.